children of reality TV's Chrisley's Hope court hearing is a step towards bringing guilty parents home. Todd and Julie Chrisley, reality TV stars who are in jail after being convicted on federal counts of bank fraud and tax evasion, had their verdicts and sentences appealed in a federal appeals court on Friday. The Chrisleys rose to prominence with their hit show Chrisley Knows Best, which followed the exploits of their close-knit family. Prosecutors claim they engaged in a massive bank fraud conspiracy, concealing their earnings from tax authorities while flaunting their lavish lifestyle. Peter Tarantino, the accountant they recruited, is also serving time in prison. He wants his conviction overturned and a new trial. On Friday, a three-judge panel of the 11th United States Circuit Court of Appeals in Atlanta heard arguments from the three parties' lawyers. More than a dozen supporters, including two of the Chrisleys' children, Savannah and Chase, gathered in the courtroom gallery. Savannah Chrisley addressed to reporters after the court, saying she spoke with her parents Thursday night and that they are doing as best as they can and hope that Friday's hearing is a step closer to getting them home. The Chrisleys were initially charged in August of 2019. In June 2022, a jury convicted them of conspiring to defraud community banks out of about $30 million in bogus loans. They were also found guilty of tax evasion and conspiracy to cheat the IRS, with Julie Chrisley convicted of wire fraud and obstruction of justice. Todd Chrisley, 56, is in a minimum security federal prison camp in Pensacola, Florida, with an October 2032 release date, and Julie Chrisley, 51, is at a facility in Lexington, Kentucky, with a July 2028 release date, according to the Federal Bureau of Prisons website. Tarantino, 61, was convicted of conspiring to defraud the United States and deliberately filing fraudulent tax returns. He is being imprisoned in a minimum security federal prison camp near Montgomery, Alabama, having a publication date of September next year. Prosecutors claim the Chrisleys abandoned their obligation to repay loans when Todd Chrisley declared bankruptcy. While in bankruptcy, they began their reality show and flaunted their wealth and lifestyle to the American public, then disguised the millions they earned from the show from the IRS, according to prosecutors. Alex Little, a lawyer for the Chrisleys, claimed that an IRS officer lied on the witness about the couple still owing taxes at the time of trial despite knowing that no taxes were owed, and that prosecutors deliberately presented and failed to amend that false testimony. They relied on information they knew to be incorrect, he claimed, including $17.2 million in restitution that she and her husband were ordered to pay, should be wiped away and she should be resentenced on those counts. Prosecutors argue there was sufficient evidence at trial to support the charges and jury verdicts, and that the evidence was properly obtained and admitted. Peters argued that there was also no evidence that the IRS officer's testimony affected the jury's verdict. Even if the Chrisleys eventually paid what they owed, later actions do not nullify the crime, Peters said. Don Samuel, a lawyer for Tarantino, argued that his client was harmed by being tried with the Chrisleys, and he urged the court to reverse Tarantino's conviction and return his case to the lower court for a new trial. While Tarantino did certain things that ended up facilitating the Chrisleys' fraudulent conduct, there was no evidence he did anything intentionally to facilitate that conduct, Samuel said. The scope of the charges against the Chrisleys dwarfed the evidence against Tarantino and prejudiced the jury against him, Samuel said. Peters said there was substantial evidence demonstrating Tarantino's personal involvement, and he can't demonstrate actual, compelling evidence that he was harmed by being tried along with the Chrisleys, demonstrating simply that they employed a typical entertainment business method to collect acting compensation. They further allege that prosecutors failed to show any evidence that Julie Chrisley was involved in bank fraud. They argue that the judge erred in awarding repayment and asset confiscation. Todd Chrisley's lawyers argue that he should be acquitted of tax evasion and conspiracy charges and given a fresh trial on the remaining counts. Alternatively, the appeals court should remand the matter to the trial court for a hearing on his allegations that the IRS officer lied and evidence was unlawfully introduced. Julie Chrisley's lawyers contend that she should be acquitted on all 5 bank fraud counts. They also state her sentencing for the remaining counts, the $17.2 million in reparations that she and her husband were forced to pay, should be vacated, and she should be resentenced on those charges. Prosecutors claim that there was enough evidence at trial to back up the charges and jury judgments, and that the evidence was legally collected and entered. Peters contended that there was no proof that the IRS officer's testimony influenced the jury's decision. Even if the Chrisleys finally paid their debts, later actions do not nullify the crime, Peters stated. Don Samuel, Tarantino's lawyer, contended that his client was damaged by being prosecuted alongside the Chrisleys and requested the court to overturn Tarantino's conviction and remand his case to the lower court for a new trial. While Tarantino did several things that helped the Chrisleys commit fraud, there was no indication that he did it on purpose, Samuel said. The magnitude of the allegations against the Chrisleys dwarfed the evidence against Tarantino and prejudiced the jury against him, Samuel claimed. Peter stated that there was substantial evidence indicating Tarantino's personal involvement, but he cannot demonstrate actual, compelling proof that he was hurt by being prosecuted alongside the Chrisleys.